Blackhawks fans, welcome in to the 5th season of the Four Feathers podcast. It's Johnny Nani alongside Tony on Tap and Ron Luce. Gentlemen, hockey is #back, and so are we here at Four Feathers. What's up, boys?
What's up, dudes? It's good to be back on a microphone with you guys. I believe it or not, I missed your guys' faces. The only downside to baseball season is I don't get to see you two until the old whack puck comes back in the fall. So I'm happy to be back with you guys. It's a good feeling tonight.
It is great to be back, Ron. We did do some summer episodes though around draft time, and then we had our guy Pat Comiskey come back to discuss Corey Perry as a Chicago Blackhawk. I know it's his favorite player. I think he's got a wedding coming up this weekend. I might get him a Corey Perry jersey, Johnny. What do you think?
Ooh, yeah, I think that would be a good wedding gift for him.
A good wedding gift for Pat Comiskey, yeah.
I like that he's been putting his countdown on. Like I saw his tweet the other day. It was like 7 days until marriage, 24 days until hockey season. So he's dialed in. But yeah, I think that'd be a good gag gift for him.
I was thinking about it. We'd just give him a nice Four Feathers wedding gift, a Corey Perry jersey he could wear out to the UC this year. And he'll wear it proudly.
Yeah, his favorite. So, guys, we got a lot to talk about. We're back with Four Feathers here. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're a returning listener, we thank you so much for being with us. But if you're new, make sure you're over at OnTap Sportsnet on YouTube. Subscribe there. Press the notification button so you know when we go live. We've got all of our other shows from the OnTap Sports Network lined up over there as well. But Four Feathers, of course, what you're here for. So check us out there on the socials at Four Feathers Pod and at OnTap Sportsnet. And go and check out ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports, literature, and podcasting needs. Guys, housekeeping's out of the way. Let's get to the elephant in the room, the topic on everybody's mind, Connor Bedard. We got our first taste over the weekend in the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase, and he put on quite the show.
Johnny, a show is an understatement. To come out and say, hello, hockey world, hello, Blackhawks fans, here's a hat trick for you, just to get you really excited. Knowing he knew, Johnny, he knew that Chicago sports for everybody was just going to be shit. And he was like, let me single-handedly raise the hopes of this city and get people excited for hockey season. And to the bum that said Bedard could never, when Fantilli scored the hat trick.
Blue Jackets fan, yeah.
Yeah, you're a real fucking asshole because Bedard can do that, and he's going to do that hopefully multiple times this season.
Yeah, on that, I was going to get into that if you didn't bring it up. So I'm glad you did, Ron. But just if you did not see that, it was a little interaction on Twitter, and it was the Columbus Blue Jackets, one of their fans had quote tweeted something when Fantilli got his hat trick in their prospect showcase, whichever one they were playing in, but he completed his with empty netter. By the way, however, that happened earlier in the day before the Blackhawks played Saturday night in the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase, and then obviously Bedard went out, did the hat trick. So our guy, our enforcer here at Four Feathers Podcast, Pat Comiskey, I believe it was Stephen F or whatever. It was the guy's name, the Blue Jackets fan. So we quote tweeted it and he said, Stephen F, and the F is for fucking stupid. And that's why we keep Pat Comiskey around as our enforcer, guys.
He is our enforcer. He's our Corey Perry. All the more reason you got to give him a jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, just the Connor Bedard stuff, guys. When you're watching this take place, it was a slow start to the game, but then things started to open up. Blackhawks were dominant through the whole entire thing. Bedard just looked like he didn't even belong with these guys. Just miles and miles ahead of the level of skill that, most NHL players, I don't even know if are on that playing field with Connor Bedard when it comes to the release, as Kirk in the comments is talking about. Which one of these goals was your favorite? I got to ask you guys, because all three of them were pretty. They weren't cheapies. No. They were. There was traffic around them, and every single one of these opportunities, it was just. Oh man,
Number two, absolutely, because it came from the rock star zone. He read the defense. He got the puck slid over to him from the point, and then he sort of read the defense, saw the forwards were kind of closing off the middle. So guess what? I'm going to go down to the left circle and see if I can make something happen, whether that's opening up a pass for somebody in front of the net. And then he says, you know what? Fuck it. I've just got such a good shot release that I'm going to fire it from the rock star zone, top shelf, top titties from here. And he's not even going to have a fucking chance. And sure enough, Blues goalie didn't. The second goal was absolutely beautiful. Rockstar zone, baby.
See, gentlemen, there's something about that first goal and watching that replay, especially from that angle, the initial angle, because all you see him is toe drag, as Kirk said in the comments, that crispy toe drag. and then he shoots the puck, and then the puck, you don't see the puck go in. All of a sudden, everybody just starts celebrating. Like, that's how good his shot is. And I mean, the second one too, man, it was wow. All of them were pretty. I mean, I don't think there was one that you could sit there and be like, oh, I'm underwhelmed by that. Like, every single one had some little level of flair to it, even if it was modest. Johnny, I think the one too that you're referencing from the Rockstar Zone, I think it's just the way he walked into the Rockstar Zone too, right? You could see him changing his edges and just finessing the puck around people, and he's just like, man, fuck it, I got a shot here, I'm gonna take it. Just rips it top shelf. I mean,
for those who are listening to this in podcast form later, you had to see Ron sort of reenact Connor Bedard getting into the Rockstar Zone. We might have to get him out there on the ice rink. Yeah, doing the shimmy. We'll see how well Ron can do it on the ice.
If you put me on ice, I am going to fall flat on my face.
Right. Well, we had talked about it in the past, Tony, about doing a 4 feathers combine. Remember? And it just never came together, never materialized because it's usually pretty busy. I think we're going to try and plan it around end of spring for when they have the NHL combine, but that would be fun. So we can get Ron's little shimmy down to the Rockstar Zone on there. All right, let's field a few comments here because we appreciate all of our people in here. Multiple Sauces have told me that the Hawks are how you say #back. Our guy NWI Steve, who we were just talking about before the show. Can any of us #confirm, guys? Can you guys confirm?
#absolutely confirmed.
From Safari?
From Safari, from the UC, from the news desk, from the beach that I was on during the trade deadline, all of them, #confirmed.
You forgot one place there, Ronald. From the operating room.
I know.
Ooh, right.
Literally everywhere. Confirm from everywhere you can possibly #confirm from.
Yeah, I can also #confirm. So we've got multiple sauces on here. Yes. Yeah, even Skoke's in here. He can confirm Hawks are back. And Kirk says per Bobby Margarita. Hey, yeah, Bobby Margarita. Big name coming in there. So, guys, let's talk a little bit more Prospect Showcase. Obviously, Bedard's the headliner of this thing, but some other guys showed out that I was impressed with. Colton Dock had himself a couple of tucks, assists as well in there, and Nolan Allen I thought looked really good as well. So, anything that stood out to you guys? And obviously, there was a shutout pitched. I believe that was on Saturday night.
Yep, that was Comesso, and I'm obviously the goalie guy here, so I have to give him some credit there. Obviously, as you said, Johnny, Bedard's going to steal the headlines here, but always good to see a goalie prospect come out there and shut another team down. That's going to give him a lot of momentum heading into training camp and his season there as well. I was really impressed with the goaltending on Saturday. Sunday, not so much.
Yeah, it's a change when you go from a guy like Comesso, who's a former second-round pick and probably very easily the top goalie prospect in this system, and it's not even close at this moment, to not a shot at him, but to a guy like Mitchell Weeks, who just not on the same level of player as a guy like Comesso. Tony, just kind of adding on to what you said too, right? Appreciating some of the headlines that aren't going to steal the headlines because of Bedard. I was pumped to see a guy like Nick Lardis score on Sunday. I know that went very underwhelming. I love what Colton Dock did. I'm right there with you, Johnny. I think Nolan Allen establishing his presence is, dare I say, if Korchinski's the Keith, Allen's the Seabrook, right? He's laying the boom.
I don't want to go and throw out direct comparisons. I just want everybody to know that right now. But if you're talking about slotting in for where guys would be ranked within top defenseman second,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. Like he's also, I think he's really showing that, hey, Blackhawks, you made me a first round pick. I know a lot of people criticized him as a first round pick because he had a third round grade to some people, but he's come out. He's done everything you would ask of a guy who's that shutdown like defenseman. But again, a guy that I called out around the draft, I'm really pumped that Nick Lardis scored. I think that guy that's just going to continue scoring goals. To me, if he's going to find a role in the NHL, it's going to be as that, he might only give you 35, 40 points, but he's going to get you 20 tucks a season type guy.
Right.
So really good to see him score, but also got to love what was done by Colton Dock, as you mentioned, Johnny, a couple tucks. He's showing off kind of that powered forward kind of look, I think, as a player. Tony, we didn't even get to your favorite player here about Marcel's Blackhawks debut, Tom.
Right.
Like,
Burning
we didn't even
questions
get
here,
to talk
guys.
about that.
Yeah, I know. And, I'll say this. I was sort of underwhelmed with Marcel's play. Not enough noticeable use of his size for me. Maybe a little bit of nerves thrown on the Indian head for the first time throughout the weekend. But again, on Sunday, really wasn't around too much for me. Didn't really seem to have the impact that I was looking for from Marcel. We'll see what happens in training camp. But as Burke's question there, have we figured out if Marcel has his first or last name on his jersey? And the answer is both. There, Brooklyn. If you're looking for that, both. You still need to get my Marcel jersey. That's a must. But we're gonna need to see him on the score sheet.
Right. I think pro hockey will do him well. See how he stacks up, especially with the size coming over, playing, in that realm. Because he had said himself, I think he's pretty much just bigger than everybody in juniors. So we'll see how that translates over. A couple other guys that were thrown out in the comments. Obviously, I want to just scrape back on Nolan Allen real quick. I love the hit that he delivered. That was awesome. Made for a great gift. You can go check it out at the Four Feathers Pod Twitter account. But also, he dropped the gloves. He answered the bell. It was a clean hit. Probably didn't need to, but in this type, guys are going to try and prove themselves. So a guy who's coming up defending his teammates for the Wild. I mean, think of, even if it was clean, if someone lit up Bedard on Saturday night, sure as shit, someone would be dropping gloves around. So Nolan Allen answers the bell and takes care of his guy easily too. So that was awesome to see him win the fight as well. A couple other ones here. Martin Misiak. Yep, he played well, especially I think Sunday kind of stood out a little bit more to me early on in that contest there. And then Korchinski. Hey, the Polish guy, Korchinski. Our guy Steve dropping that in there. But yes, he had a shot that was perfectly placed through traffic and was deflected into the net too. So I think Nolan Allen maybe kind of got the headliner a little bit more just in terms of noticeable plays that stand out, but he still did have that assist in terms of Kevin Korchinski. And we all know we had seen him last year during preseason, followed him with WHL Seattle, and then he'll probably get a look too early on this season. So overall, I'd say successful weekend, even though the Blackhawks went 1-1. Hey, every team went 1-1 in that tournament. So I think seeing Bedard is just the kind of what drove everything home this weekend, especially for how shitty it was for your Cubs run and for the Bears. I mean, like you said, yeah, feels like a savior moment.
Well, and quickly note too, with Sunday, Bedard did not suit up on Sunday, right? It was pretty much everybody else that played in that game against the Wild, and they still held their own, right? I mean, it wasn't like they got blown out or anything. I mean, they were still fighting back from, trailing to the Wild at times. You saw some of the other guys get some of that moment too, right? To take like you said, a Nolan Allen, a Colton Dock, a Martin Misiak. They stood out a little more because they're not playing next to a guy who's 100% going to be a first line NHLer this season in Bedard like they did on Saturday. So completely in agreement, guys. I think, despite 1-1, very, very successful weekend for Chicago Blackhawks hockey.
Right. Indeed. Well, let's move on. Guys, training camp schedule just dropped today. So Blackhawks training camp will officially open up. I know they have some media Tuesday, physicals Wednesday, but practice, all of that stuff getting going on Thursday. And new this year, guys, Bedard hype means there's going to be a lot of crowds there. So practices will still be open to the public, but new this year, you got to claim tickets. Guys, how much of a 180 is this from this time last year when buzz around the Blackhawks was seemingly at its lowest?
Yeah, probably last year they would have been giving him away with like a free Subway sandwich, like the Milwaukee Brewers do. So you go to the games.
They didn't even need tickets last year.
Yeah,
it wasn't going to overflow.
Right? You just walked in and got to enjoy it, and it really was just kind of like, okay, what's this team going to look like for the year? But I mean, guys, I want to hear from both you too, kind of on this topic. But isn't it great to know that like it's going to be hard if you want to go to training camp this year? It means there's people are excited about hockey again. It means things are going in the right direction for this Blackhawks team. And sure, I think to the casual hockey fan, Connor Bedard commands a lot of that attention. But I think even to the fairly committed Blackhawks fan that we've seen develop over the last 10 years because of their success, I think people are just excited again because people like the direction this team is going with what Kyle Davidson has done, right? We talk about Luke Richardson probably more than anybody that we've talked about. Yeah, because of that hashtag culture, hashtag grip, hashtag TWTW that he's bringing to this team. And then you're starting to see the influx of a little bit of that talent, right? Because even outside of Bedard this year, Taylor Hall's going to be fun to watch in a Blackhawks uniform. It's a former number 1 overall pick in himself. It's going to be weird seeing guys like Corey Perry and Nick Foligno in Blackhawks jerseys, but there's more to this team. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys too from last year that take another step forward as well. Taylor Radish and so many more that we can legitimately get excited. Obviously, Bedard's going to command the attention, but guys, I mean, there's more than just Bedard to be excited about. And I mean, aren't you guys fired up that people are going to want to go? And you got to kind of fight tooth and nail to get some tickets to the training camp, because it means it's actually going to be worth the shit this year to watch Blackhawks hockey.
Absolutely, Ron. I think you said it well there. I mean, there's no doubt a buzz around this team. You look at just, popping your phone open, looking at social media during these games in a prospect tournament. That wasn't happening last year. That hasn't happened in a while. And yeah, there was some buzz around, Bedard there for Saturday, but I still saw people tuned in on Sunday when he wasn't on the ice. I mean, it goes back to the direction of the franchise. It goes back to this team has a vision right now. People can buy into it and get excited. You look at all the season tickets that have been sold this offseason. Johnny had an article over at ontapsportsnet.com talking about how the UC is going to look different for some of these preseason games that are coming up, when last year they had the 300 level closed. I would imagine that pretty much every single one of these is going to be pretty packed, looking like a regular season game. There's excitement around this team. It's an exciting time. The name keeps coming back up, as Johnny described him as the elephant in the room, or the elephant on Ron's safari. It's Connor Bedard. There's a lot of hype there. But I mean, Ron, you put it perfectly. There's plenty of reasons to be excited for this. Look at what this team did last year with Luke Richardson. It's going to be better this year.
Right. And you talked about that name coming back up again, rightfully so. I mean, it's a big deal, guys, but I just want to, it's not that fans weren't bought in. And I think everybody liked the direction that the team was heading as soon as Kyle Davidson took over and was able to fully tear down and finally commit to a direction, right? Because there's so much, just kind of patchwork job going on at the end of the Stan Bowman era. So I think people enjoyed that, but you still saw the drop off in engagement with the team, right? Whether that be just, in being excited about things on social media, discussing it regularly, viewership of the games, attendance at games. I'm sorry, but you need to have a product, something on the ice that's going to draw you to that product if you want people to be with you throughout this process. It's just the way it is. People aren't going to go and spend their money. And guess what? Now you've got that in Connor Bedard. So it's not that people are fair weather fans or whatever. I think a lot of people are satisfied with the direction here, but it's just such an organization changer. And I think we talked about that so much leading up to the draft. And then obviously in reaction to finally, getting him and netting him, and Tony, things that we talked about on the lottery night show. It just feels like a turning of the tide here. So it's exciting, guys. I'm looking forward to it. Part of that thing that you mentioned there, Tony, 300 level was fucking closed off for a preseason game last year. And then we were at another one. I think it was the very first one. It was closed off for completely. Then we were at another one and it wasn't completely closed off, but there's only like 3 beer stands open. And people were only like standing around those like bar areas or sitting at the very like bottom of it. That's going to be a different, I know it's preseason, so maybe not looking at like sellouts there, but come on, people want to go out and watch Connor Bedard and some of these other prospects that are coming up alongside.
100%. I think too, and correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but I think the nature of where every other team in Chicago is kind of at right now, I think that's going to help the Blackhawks command more attention, especially early on in the year, right? Because as of 2 weeks ago, most Cubs fans felt pretty close to guaranteed that this team was going to be playing playoff baseball. And now that's not guaranteed because of their recent run. You look at the Bears, who everybody after 2 weeks is ready to bash their head off the wall. And unfortunately, the White Sox series is all, their season is all but over. And I think a lot of people are very pessimistic about the Bulls. We can all talk to,
Right.
friend of ours here, in Buzz over at Bulls on Tap. It very much, I think, is going to help the Hawks. And to your point, Johnny, I don't think it's going to be sellouts, but I think you're going to get 10,000, maybe 13, 14,000 people crowds for especially the preseason games that are later in the week. I think of that Minnesota Wild one on October 5th. I know the Bears play that night, but there might be a lot of people that say, hell with the Bears. I'd rather go watch Connor Bedard play because it's going to be the last home game before they play regular season games. So there's going to be a lot of people that want to get out there. I know I sure as hell want to get out to at least one preseason game if things work out. And I'm sure we won't be the only ones, gentlemen, that want to do so with Bedard taking the ice.
Right. Absolutely. It's exciting times, guys. I'm really looking forward to it. With training camp getting going Thursday, like we said, there's a 6-game preseason slate, 3 at home, 3 on the road. Guys, one thing I thought was interesting too, because in this kind of period here of leading up to hockey season, we got the first wave of the promo schedule, and that's not all of it. But something I think that's cool that they're doing that may help draw a little bit more to preseason game round. They're doing magnet schedule giveaway, first 5,000 each home preseason game. I thought that was pretty cool. They're doing a Hispanic Heritage month night at one of the preseason games as well. I think first time that promotions have really fully bled over into preseason games, but it works because that's, whatever happening during September or early October. So I know there was a little bit of Oktoberfest last year, but I think they're, we talk about on the ice headed in the right direction. I think marketing wise, they're listening to fans, they're taking feedback. I think they've done that pretty well to this point, and seeing stuff like that. It's like, shit, Tony, I always like going to the early White Sox games because you get a magnet schedule for like that whole first home series, right? Yep. Now they're doing it for the Hawks, but for preseason. I like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Johnny, the marketing has been great too. Like they obviously through the Cup era run didn't really have to do much to market to the fans. And if you look at what they did as this rebuild has started to take shape last year, there was tons of different giveaways, tons of different theme nights, some really cool stuff they did in the atrium. I expect that to carry over sort of into this new era of Blackhawks hockey, which is going to be a great product for people to go out and enjoy a hockey game. The product on the ice might not be the best this year. At least you have some faith that they're headed in the right direction, but there's plenty of other reasons to go out there and enjoy a day at the UC. And when you couple those two things together, I think you've got probably one of the better products in sports in Chicago, I have to say, like across all of the teams. So they've done a really good job so far of putting this whole thing together on the ice and off the ice.
I think a really good job too with the preseason, just kind of understanding the dynamic of how their season starts, right? They only play 2 home regular season games in the month of October. It's a home opener on the 21st against the Golden Knights. And then on that first Tuesday following that, they play the Bruins and welcome them to town for some Tuesday night hockey. I know Tony and I will be there for sure. Johnny, I have yet to learn your ticket schedule to a T yet. So we'll figure that one out at some point. But, good on them, right? Take advantage of these 3 preseason games that you're going to have at home and get people in the building and get them excited to be in the building, because it's not just a preseason game. Maybe it's Hispanic Heritage Night. Maybe it's, it is the magnet giveaways. You're getting something for coming to the UC when it might not be all the starters taking the ice every single night, but they want people in the building. They want people to get excited about Blackhawks hockey, because when the 21st rolls around, I'm willing to bet a decent amount of money that's probably going to be a sellout game.
Oh yeah. I think even last year, I want to say the home opener was pretty damn close to a sellout. So people are, and it was Detroit too, so that was a good one. But I mean, hey, defending champions coming in for the home opener, and talk about that. It's on a Saturday night. That's another thing I think they did really well. So kudos to the Blackhawks for finally, all it was the NHL didn't think that they were like interested in hosting that many Saturday games. And I remember reading a Ben Pope article about it back in like April of last year. And it was quite literally, we just needed to talk with the NHL schedule makers and say, yeah, sign us up for more weekend games. So they got a shit ton of weekend games, and especially Saturday night. I think that's a great one. And then there's plenty of, for afternoon games too. They have a full slate of those too to accommodate people that want to bring full families out to the game. So I think they're doing a good job of that. But guys, I'm excited for more Saturday nights, because they finally ramped it up with 2, 3, I think, last year, but it's going to be even more, including the home opener this year.
Yeah, Saturday night hockey is cool and tough, but don't get me wrong, boys. I am very excited for that Black Friday afternoon game. Stuff yourself with turkey the day before, and then go watch Blackhawks matinee hockey to start your weekend off.
I believe we have that game, right, Ron?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Very excited for that game, and it's an original 6 matchups against the Maple Leafs too. So how do you beat that?
Right, last year that was the game that Kirby Doc clowned on all of us. Remember that?
Sure was. Show was.
So, yeah,
you can laugh here. Yeah.
Right. Full promo schedules out. You can go and check it out on tapsportsnet.com. Just click on the Blackhawks tab. Just scroll down and find it there. But there is also a second wave of that. So we don't know like everything that's going to be going on officially, but there were some cool notes like 2 days of St. Patrick's Day celebrations because it happens like over a weekend for a couple of the games that we're going to be like hosting Friday and Sunday for that. And there's some other cool stuff that they're doing. So once again, go check it out on tapsportsnet.com. Guys, let's talk a little bit of season expectations because I wanted to bring this up. I saw there's this hockey podcast, fairly notable from Friday Beers. It's called Empty Netters, and they talk all things hockey, and they do a good job. They have some, NHL guests. They're located out in LA, so they've gotten like Pierre-Luc Dubois, a few other LA Anaheim guys out there. But they had a whole segment, and they were talking about Blackhawks fans need to pump the brakes, and this team isn't going to be as good even with Bedard. And I commented on it, and I said, hold the fuck up. Who are you talking to that's expecting them to be good? Because I wanted to get into season expectations here. They're going to still be bad, standings-wise, points-wise, playoff position-wise. They're not making the playoffs. They're still going to be bad, but they're going to be fun bad because you got a guy like Connor Bedard leading the way. You've got up-and-coming guys that will be joining them for stretches. Korchinski, who knows? I would imagine he'll go back to the juniors at some point, but it's seeing those guys come together a little bit by bit here, and it's the process of building that. So I don't know about you guys, but where are your expectations at for the season? I still predict a 7th or 8th place finish in the Central, not even sniffing the playoffs.
Yeah, I will second that, Johnny. I think they'll be very low in the standings. I think there's a world where they could sniff like that 6th spot. I don't think they're going to be a lottery team per se. It really just depends. It depends what they do early in the year, right? Because we all know that trade deadline looks a lot different afterwards, and it's probably going to be the same way this year. So they're probably going to lose more games come March and early April. It just depends how they play in the rest of the time. I could see them finishing 6th. I think 6th in the Central is very reasonable. I think they're still 12, 15, 18 points out of a playoff position. They're going to be pretty far out of it, but I think they're going to sneak up on some teams. But Johnny, I think what's going to help them in terms of getting good draft capital, plus you have 2 first-rounders again with Tampa's still. You still have the ultimate tank goalie in Peter Mrazek in that. And that's going to help them a lot too. I think there's fun, bad. There's going to be a lot of games where they lose 6-5 this year. Like, that's just my hunch. But hey, if it's Connor Bedard nets 2 and Hall nets 2 and, one of the other guys, Boris Kachuk gets the last one, Johnny. I know you and I would love that one.
Yeah.
It's going to be those kind of games that was a lot of fun. Sucks they lost, but Peter Mrazek gave up 6 goals on 22 shots. And that's just the nature of the beast. So I'm right there with you, man. I think 6th place is like the sweet spot for them in the Central. Yeah, maybe 5 if they had a lot of things go right, but I just don't think that's going to be the case. So 6th place is where I have them finishing in the Central.
Yeah, I think you guys are pretty spot on with this. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but this team wasn't designed to win or go to the playoffs. Like, and Peter Mrazek being in net is exactly all you need to see, or have him out on the ice, and there's going to be some goals let up. I actually think this team could potentially do better if he sustains a long injury and is not in net for a significant period of time. I hate to say that, but the chances are they're going to win more hockey games if he's not in net. I'm just looking forward to placing some wagers on Connor Bedard anytime goal scorers, and sometimes maybe float that up to 2 goals or 2 points plus, and ride a couple of Hawks underdog money lines into some extra cash in my pocket while I'm enjoying my hockey this season. I don't expect them to be in the mix or in the hunt down the stretch, but crazier things have happened. Could they be, a couple of points out and make it a little bit interesting? Potentially. I don't think that there's a high percentage chance of that, but it could easily go the other way, Ron. I think that they could potentially wind up being a lottery team. And if they do trade away a bulk of these guys who are getting a lot of minutes in the early part of this season, you never know. You could wind up in a lottery position. I don't think they're going to wind up getting the number 1 overall pick by any stretch of the imagination. But I think they're going to be more middle of the pack towards the bottom if that's reasonable enough.
Yeah, and you quickly, just to add, Tone, you noted a good point, right? You said this team's not built that way to win a lot of
Right.
games. If you really look at it, this team is built to have Connor Bedard have a successful rookie campaign in terms of development. That's really what it's built for. Good leaders are in that locker room. Corey Perry's going to bash your face in if you do anything stupid and hurt Bedard. And Taylor Hall's there to teach him how to be a number one overall pick and hopefully score some goals and maybe drive his value up a little bit if he decides that he wants to try and go win. So
I want to see him play physical this year too. That's the other thing. I want him to be a physical hockey team, and I think they will.
Yeah.
Isn't that like the one wild card in this equation though? Like, as I just sat here and said they're going to be, bad like basement of the Central again, probably bordering on that lottery if not in it, in my opinion. But isn't Taylor Hall that wild card that we have? Because it doesn't seem
100%.
like wherever he like jumps around, he's been to like so many spots, even as a former number one overall pick. I agree that the most valuable thing you'll get out of him is mentoring Connor Bedard, playing alongside him, helping him, both in the as a professional off the ice and then developing on the ice too. But there's always just like some like weird voodoo magic that follows him, feels like. All right, the counter that though, I just wanted to bring something up, Ron. You brought this up, but the only 2 home games in October early on. So remember the year Caledon got fired, how dog shit they were early on in that season. Now there were a number of factors that played there too, but you see how much an early hole can get you down. Well, guys, at Pittsburgh, at Boston, at Montreal, at Toronto, at Colorado, finally home versus Vegas and Boston, at Vegas, at Arizona. That's the month of October. Then you're going to Florida, or home against Florida, New Jersey, at Tampa, at Florida, home against Tampa, at Nashville. That brings you right around Thanksgiving. Sorry, that's already putting you out of it.
Yeah, that's a really hard schedule to begin the year. But you know what it is too? The NHL wants to say, okay, we know all these really good teams are going to be out, but the Hawks are going to win like 3 or 4 of those somehow that when you don't expect them to. Like again, we're sitting here talking about the wild card that is a guy like Taylor Hall, right? Like what happens when that first line has a night where like each player has like 3 or 4 points? Like you're going to sneak, especially if you catch like a Toronto or something like that on a bad night. But agreed, that gauntlet, because they usually say, right, you can kind of tell where a team's probably going to finish by American Thanksgiving. Like that's kind of the benchmark of you learn who the good teams are and you learn who the not so good teams are. Very rarely do teams go on a run when you're in or out of one of those positions to flip the narrative. So agree with you, Johnny. A hell of a gauntlet to start the season and a hell of a gauntlet for Connor Bedard to start his NHL career.
Right. So I just wanted to bring that up in terms of some expectations. One other topic I wanted to jump into before we close it down for the night here on Four Feathers Pod. We appreciate everyone joining us here, especially in the comments here. But last topic, it was kind of brought up, and Seth Jones himself commented on it. Blackhawks captaincy, it's vacant right now. Jonathan Toews is no longer around. That era has come to an end here. Seth Jones has said that he would be willing to take that role on. Obviously, the team hasn't made any official moves. We don't know if they will or what if they do, when they would announce that. But guys, candidates for captain, do you think Seth would be a good one? Do you have any other names in mind? Floor is yours.
Go ahead, Tom.
I'm not giving it to Seth Jones. I'm just not. I know he wants it. I know he's up there in terms of being the veteran guy. He's got this long contract. The reason I'm not giving it to Seth Jones is I don't want him to be the captain of this team when his contract is that albatross that, nobody wants him here. And, he becomes disgruntled and starts getting all these questions. And, I just don't think that scenario plays out well. I don't think you have to go into this season naming a captain. In fact, I wouldn't. If I were the Blackhawks, I would not name a captain here. I think that it's up to, Connor Bedard's growth to eventually hand him that C. Obviously, he is the franchise player here. He's the generational talent. He's been a leader everywhere he's gone. You can't just hand it to him right now, especially with some of the veterans who are on this team. Let Jones wear an A permanently this season. I'm okay with that. I just don't see the need to name anybody a captain right now, knowing what the future holds for, Connor Bedard here. So that's my thought on this.
Yeah, I agree with Tony in the sense I don't think they need to name a captain this year. I think they should go without a captain this year. Frankly, I think that's the best move because you want somebody to effectively take that role on and run with it, right? Look at what the Blackhawks did the first time around. They had a team littered with Robert Lang and a lot of these veteran players, but they waited, and Taves asserted himself and started wearing an A at times when guys got hurt, even as a young player, and then they handed him the C when he was ready. So I agree with Tony. I think eventually they want to hand the C to Bedard. I think that's the expectation. It's not like he didn't wear a letter when he was in juniors, right? Like you would be able to tell about his character if he didn't wear a C or like didn't want a C, but he wore the C in the WHL. So I think eventually it's going to be him. I think going into the year, your 3 A's are probably pretty cemented in my humble opinion. Connor Murphy's one of them. I know, Johnny, I think he's a guy that you and I have also thought about. If that, I would give him the C before I give Jones the C, frankly. And I think Jones will wear an A. I think Jones has done enough to deserve that honor to wear an A, and I think he's very respected in that locker room. But I think a guy that we haven't talked about enough this offseason in terms of the veteran leadership he's going to bring, I think Nick Foligno is going to wear an A this season too. As long as he's in a Blackhawk sweater, I think he's one of your A's. To me, that's your 3. And they're going to roll like that. And if a guy gets hurt, maybe somebody in, maybe a Taylor Hall, maybe a Corey Perry kind of takes on an A if somebody gets hurt that is wearing a letter. But go without a C this year. I wouldn't even be mad if they went without a C next year. And eventually when you do hand the C over, it's going to be the number 98.
Right. I won't rehash it. I think you guys laid it out pretty well, but you got to think long term with this. And Ron, I think you surmised the whole sort of situation with how it was handled previously. So I agree with your guys' takes that I probably, if it were up to me, I probably would not name one even next year too, because you're also you don't want to be that guy in the front office if you're the one handing, or Luke Richardson in the locker room, if you're handing Bedard like right away after like one season. Like I still, no matter how much he shows out, I still don't think it's probably the time yet.
You want him to earn it,
after,
like really
right,
earn it.
Well, that's what I was
and then
say.
you'll also be knowing at the end of an entry level contract, you're probably getting into signing him for the legit long term there. So that's probably the time to do it. But if I did have Ron, you brought him up. Connor Murphy, if anybody's been here around deserves it, it would be Connor Murphy, even if that was just a short-term bridge thing and they were only doing it for 2 years or whatever the fuck. Because you also don't know. He might be gone at like a trade deadline coming up. I know like McCabe went last year. Who knows how he plays? That would have to depend on it. But that would be my only other pick. And at the same time, I would look more long-term with those plans and just not name one. So.
Yeah, agreed. I think for those that are probably wondering, because I'm sure somebody is listening to this show, the best case scenario to me with Bedard is it's 2 years out that he gets the C. That last year, the entry level contract, maybe he takes the C. But I think it would say a lot in terms of his development as a leader in the locker room if next year he's one of the guys wearing an A. I think that's when like, oh, okay, he's close. Like he's gonna get the C if he's already out there wearing an A. For example, we saw that a lot with Alex DeBrincat when Taves was in and out of the lineup.
Right.
He was wearing the A quite a bit. And a lot of people were like, oh shit, that's your future captain. Obviously he didn't stay and we all know how that ended. But I mean, we all sat here on 4 feathers and thought that. We all said, if DeBrincat's
it looked like it was tracking, right?
Yeah, it was tracking that he was going to eventually become that guy. I think perfect case scenario, Bedard comes in this season. Next year, he's an A. Year 3, he's your C.
Yeah. I think that's a good outline for it. So I just wanted to bring that up here, guys. Let's dive in. Final thoughts that you guys got here, and we will get to getting out for the first episode of season 5, 4 feathers here. Final thoughts.
As always, I've talked way too much, boys. I'm just happy to be back on the mic with you guys. I'm happy, so freaking happy that Blackhawks hockey is back. I am very much looking forward to the first UC beer with you two beauties. So that is all I have to say. It's back, baby, and I'm so thankful.
Likewise, Ronald, can't wait to get back out there. Hopefully we can find a way out there in the preseason, like we talked about here. It was so fun this weekend. Even these were, just prospect showcase games, seeing the boys out there skating around. Obviously, Connor Bedard put on a show, and that was probably the sports highlight of, it's still technically summer for a couple more days. That was probably the sports highlight of the summer for me. I don't know about you, Johnny, but after a lot of crappy baseball, this was a welcome sight. So just ready to experience more of that throughout the winter and fall here. So cheers, crack 'em, and Johnny, take it away.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, Tony, my final thought here. I agree that it'd probably be up there with that in terms of best, because I also like games too. And I know the training camp schedule was just released today. There's a lot of practices and people clamoring to get tickets for it. I get it. It's exciting building up to this, but for me, nothing does it like game action, even if it's exhibition games. So I'll leave you with my final thought: 9 days, 23 hours, 29 minutes, and 5 seconds until Blackhawks preseason hockey is back. That's all I've got. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Four Feathers podcast. Check us out, YouTube, On Tap Sportsnet, and on the socials at Four Feathers Pod and at On Tap Sportsnet there. And go to ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs. We'll be back to check in with you probably once more before preseason starts here on Four Feathers. Welcome to season 5. Let's get it. Let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.